There are multiple different ways you can classify Castleman's disease. The traditional way to classify Castleman's disease was based on whether there was a single lymph node involved or multiple lymph nodes involved. A single lymph node or even a group of lymph nodes within a chain was called unicentric disease, or one center. On the other hand, there were patients who had multiple lymph node chains involved, and those patients were categorized as having multicentric disease. So initially, when the disease was first described, there were these two different categories. Subsequently, people began to recognize that there were also subcategories of the disease based on what you see on histopathology, so what's seen under the microscope. And for that now, we know that there is something called the hyaline vascular variant, and this variant is categorized or exemplified by having a lymph node that has an expansion of plasma cells, but also a blood vessel that tends to pierce those, and hyalinization is visualized within that terminal center. On the other hand, there is another histologic variant, which is called the plasma cell variant. This variant actually is similar in appearance, but is also characterized by having sheets of plasma cells in the interfollicular space. So then people began to recognize that there are not just two clinical variants, unicentric and multicentric, but there are also now two histologic variants, which would be plasma cell variant and hyaline vascular variant. We came to then know that there could be any combination of those four. You can have unicentric hyaline vascular, unicentric plasma cell, multicentric hyaline vascular, multicentric plasma cell, and you even can have a mixed version where there are features of both with multicentric disease. So one might say that there are 5 different sort of sub-classifications of Castleman's disease using those criteria. There are further classifications or sub-classifications within the multicentric disease. Within the plasma cell variant, there are patients who generally have HIV co-infection and infection with the virus, human herpes virus 8. These patients can have a plasmablastic version of Castleman's disease, so that might be a subvariant. And finally, many people now are thinking about the disease in 2 different classifications: idiopathic multicentric Castleman's disease and Castleman's disease that's attributed to a virus, human herpes virus 8. So I guess there are many different ways you can catalog the disease, but I think clinically what makes most sense to me is to think about it as unicentric or multicentric, because that helps us as clinicians understand the extent of disease. And then the histologic subvariants, hyaline vascular variant and plasma cell variant, have implications for the biology of the disease and have implications for how you might best treat it. So for those reasons, I tend to think of that as my classification of the disease.